All right, here we go. Final episode of the A Better NFL Top 100, Top 10 here. This is what you all came here to see. My prediction, as I'm recording all these in the same day, is that the first 9 are going to get, like, I don't know, 10 views each, and then this one's going to get a million views. That's my prediction, because that's what we're here to see. Top 10 players in the NFL. Let's just get into it. Let's not, talk too much about the previous stuff. Although I should mention, the other videos are on this channel. Check that out if you want to. But yeah, let's just jump into the list. Number 10 is the Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson, who easily could end up being much higher than number 10 on this list as his, career goes. 10 might be the lowest he ever gets. I don't know. This guy has 4,825 yards in just 3 years in the NFL. If you say he averages 1,600 yards a season, you're actually underselling him a little bit. That's how crazy he's been. And he had 1,800 yards last year. If I had to bet on who's going to be the first receiver to get to 2,000 yards, he's the guy I'm betting on. I do think that he is just such a dominant player and still so young, only 24 years old. And just turned 24, actually. So he's going to be 24 all of this next year. I mean, the fact that he's as dominant as he is, and the way the Vikings use him, it's so fun to watch. He's a star player and a top 10 player, in my opinion. But not the number one wide receiver, as Tyreek Hill is here at number 9. Tyreek Hill, who has, he only had 1,700 yards last season. I think Tyreek Hill, to me, the reason why I'm still going to put Tyreek Hill ahead, and again, it's a right now list. So like I said, I think Justin Jefferson probably has, the best chance of being a 2,000-yard receiver, just due to the fact that I think that he'll, play more years, has more opportunities. How many years does Tyreek Hill have, who's currently 29 and will turn, 30 in March? How many years does he have? I don't know, but like, he's so dominant right now. And I just love the fact that he completely changes how you have to view him. Because if you're playing a team with Tyreek Hill, you just cannot, you have to make sure you're covering deep down the field and, at all times. Like, he's someone who, any specific play, can beat you down the field for a touchdown. And then if you give him up space and let him catch one underneath, he can turn that into touchdowns. Like, he finds a way to do that as well. So the dominance that he's been able to pull off and how consistently he's been able to do it. I think the fact that he is such a deep threat and what he does for the whole offense, to me, while Jefferson is just as dominant. I mean, again, these guys are one spot away. Well, I think that what Tyreek Hill brings to a team that maybe doesn't go in a stat sheet is why I'm a little bit higher on him, and I have him here at number 9. Next up is Nick Bosa. He's here at number 8, who's coming off an 18.5 sack season, and only had 15.5 sacks the year before. So a guy who is, again, incredibly young player. He's 25 years old. He will be 26, next by the time next season rolls around, or at least early on in October he turns 26. So early on next year he will be 26. What a veteran at this point, right? No, he's still an incredibly young player, an incredibly dominant player, and just won Defensive Player of the Year. Like, yeah, he's very high on this list. I have him at 8. Number 7, give me Chris Jones, the guy who's had multiple 15.5 sack seasons as an interior defensive lineman for Kansas City. I mean, really, it sucks for Chris Jones that he plays in the same era of Aaron Donald, because, like, obviously Donald's going to get all the attention. That makes sense. Donald is one of the best players of all time. But, like, Chris Jones has put together, like, in most eras, he's, like, definitively the best defensive tackle of his era. It just so happens that he happens to be playing, in the same era of one of the best players of all time who happens to share his position. He's been absolutely incredible, was huge in that conference championship against Cincinnati. They don't win that game without him. I have him here at 7. Number 6, give me Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, the number 6 overall player, someone who's coming off of back-to-back 16 sack seasons and has had at least 10 sacks every year, without not counting his rookie year. And is, again, still just 27 years old. So is, could still be getting better, as crazy as that sounds. The model of consistency, and is also an elite run defender on top of being an elite pass rusher. So Myles Garrett, absolute superstar, number 6 on the list. Number 5 is the Pittsburgh Steelers edge rusher who, him and Garrett always get compared to each other. I got TJ Watt here at number 5. He is a top 5 player in the NFL, in my opinion. In 2021, I mean, he missed a couple games and still had 22.5 sacks. He probably would have had the record had he been there, for the whole year. Has had some injuries. That's kind of the knock on, I guess, both the Watt brothers, really. But I don't know. There's just so much other stuff he does. Like, he's an elite pass rusher, but it's not just the elite pass rush. He's a, he finds ways to get these batted balls and turn them into interceptions, which I've like only seen his brother JJ Watt do. Like, those are the two guys who I've seen do that consistently. It's absurd they can do that. Like, he's a great run defender, which he doesn't never gets talked about. He can play coverage well. Like, he does so much else well on top of being debatably the best pure pass rusher in football. I think you can argue if Myles Garrett is better as a pass rusher than Watt. When you factor in everything else, to me, Watt is he stands ahead, and so he is here at number 5, and he is the actually the second best defensive player on this list. There still is one more defensive player here, but he's number 2. Number 4, give me Travis Kelce, who I mean, what can be said about Travis Kelce that hasn't already been said? He is incredible, and he is putting. I mean, the numbers he puts up are like, you compare him like some of the best like receivers in football. Like, his postseason numbers are like that of like the best receivers in football. But he's a tight end. But you wouldn't know it from looking at his stat sheet, right? I mean, this guy has had 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons as a tight end. That's hard to do. If you have one 1,000-yard season as a tight end, that's like impressive. Like, there's guys who are Hall of Famers who like don't really get consistent 1,000-yard seasons at the tight end position. The fact that he does it like it's nothing is absurd. And he had 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns last year. You'll take that from like a number one. Not only would you take that from a number 1 receiver, you'd be like incredibly impressed if you're number 1 receiver. Like, good receivers don't do that kind of thing. The fact that he's doing it at the tight end position is something we haven't really seen before. He's debatably the best receiving tight end in football. And, to me, the top 4 guys on this list are all players that you kind of don't even compare them to the other players in the league at this point. You just compare them to other players historically that played that position. So for me, Travis Kelce, number 4. Number 3, I'm going the San Francisco 49ers left tackle Trent Williams, who is, I think definitely in the best player in football conversation. I think you could argue each of these top 4 players are in the best player in football conversation, again, excluding positional value. But for me, Trent Williams is he's just so dominant. And I think that he's someone who you could argue he had like I think he got a little hurt towards the end of the year. Kind of had a few not so great games towards the end of the year, but other than that, he just consistently wins, and he does these things I don't see other players do. Like him getting to the outside and like lead blocking for these pitch plays. I don't see other offensive linemen do it the way that he does it. He is, again, you're comparing him to the other great offensive linemen in NFL history. He's number 3 on the list. Number 2, give me Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is not number 1. He was, I believe he was number 1 last year. Yeah, he was number 1, and Trent Williams was number 2. Someone has leapfrogged them, but I actually don't think he was like. People kind of bring it up like, oh, he had a down year last year. I actually don't really know if he did. I think he just got hurt. That was the only real issue. He's still someone who, again, when he's on his best, is an elite pass rusher from the inside that's unblockable. And I still thought we saw that last year when he was healthy. He just didn't play that much. So, yeah, he didn't drop a spot because he got worse. I think someone else has surpassed him. And that number 1, of course, is Patrick Mahomes, who this is the first time I've ever really said Mahomes is the best player in football. I've in the past said like he's been the consensus guy for several years now of if you could build a franchise around someone, he was the guy you would have said. But, last year I kind of still put Aaron Donald ahead. I think in previous years, like there still was like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, who he was competing against. He stands alone now. To me, he is the best player in football. And while I say I'm not taking positional value into account, it probably does factor in a little bit that he is the most valuable player in football. That's about a question, I think. Won the MVP last year, had, the numbers he had last year, if anyone else does these numbers, you're talking about this as like, an all-time unbelievable season, but it's Mahomes, so it's just like a regular season for him. But 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns. I mean, that's insane. The fact that he was able to pull that off, and he was just as good in the postseason. They do not win that, that Super Bowl without how good he was in that moment for Kansas City. He was incredible, and I have him at number 1 on my top 100 But what do you guys think? Where do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on this, top 100 list? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.